Hey guys, welcome to the Panthers forecast. Just wrote down some notes. Going to tell you what I think about the upcoming game against the Green Bay Packers. I see a lot of people are thinking that we're in the clear, but I don't know. This game against the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I think it could possibly be another blowout, just like in Buffalo. So some of the things I'm going to talk about in this video, I just wanted to talk about Bryce injury status, and then the Panthers offense against the Packers defense, as well as the our defense versus their offense, and then a trade alert. Seeing if we should be active in the market coming up before this next week, Tuesday on the 4th. So Bryce Young, so far, I've been waiting off to see. I didn't think he was going to play this week, but it's looking like he is slided to play against the Packers. So I kind of feel like he may need to probably sit out another game and stuff just so we can make him sure. Because the thing that I'm worried about with Bryce Young is, he's relatively small, but this Packers defense is really good, and they have Micah Parsons, and I do feel like in this game they are going to get to him as we are. Our offensive line has had some injuries, and then but we can't afford to lose. I think Bryce any further, but I think into this game, that is something I'm going to be really concerned about. Is probably Bryce injury and how he holds up during this game. The Packers defense is pretty good. They're pretty good at stopping the run. They have a defensive end by the name of Rashawn Gary, who we need to keep our eyes on. He has about 8 sacks this year. And they got Edgerrin Cooper, the star from Texas A&M, and then plus Micah Parsons. So our offensive line is going to have to hold up. They didn't really do too good against Buffalo's defensive line, and I knew that going into the Buffalo game, but we're going to be in Green Bay, and that's just going to be a great away environment. And we don't really play too good on the road. So I mean, you got Bryce coming in here limping, and you got a team in the uh, Green Bay Packers that has pretty good pass rushers. This is we got to be careful on going up against the Green Bay Packers, and then I wanted to go talk about our offense versus their defense. So the Packers, if I'm looking at the notes from what I've seen, they don't really allow a team's number one receiver to beat them. The only receivers that really beat them were George Pickens, who's a really good receiver, really speedy, and athletic. Jamar Chase, and then the Steelers. The Steelers were able to get Wilson. These were the only three receivers that I saw that had over 100 yards. If you go look at the Packers versus any other team they played offensively, the leader of that other team is typically a tight end, with the only three exceptions to that rule being Jamar Chase with Cincinnati, George Pickens with the Dallas Cowboys, and Roman, I think that's his name, Wilson. He came from Michigan, the championship Michigan team with the Steelers. Those were the only wide receivers to get like 100 yards. So they're going to be on Tedora McMillan, but we need one of our other receivers to step up. We need Coker. We need Jimmy Horn. I think Jimmy Horn is probably the prototypical. That's our like fastest receiver. They're going to have because I think with T Mac, we're with those pass rushers, our quarterbacks, if it's going to be Bryce Young or Mike White, they're not going to have enough time to, sit there in the pocket and then throw a deep ball to maybe XL or Coker or even T Mac. So we're going to have to utilize our tight ends, and tight ends have done had been the leaders for the opposing team going up against the Green Bay Packers. So we need Jatavion Sanders and we need Mitchell Evans to step up. Mitchell Evans has done a pretty good job of getting touchdowns in the red zone. He's just not really that I would say big play. I still need to see him play a little bit more, but I just don't really see a lot of speed with him. But we know we sort of get that burst with Jatavion Sanders. So we need Jatavion Sanders to have a big game, and Canales needs to get in his bag. We need to start off running with Rico Dowdle, but we need to also start getting Jimmy Horn more involved. The jet sweeps, we got to sort of leave that alone. We need to get him running some verticals. We need to have him running some deep posts. We need to have him, running similar routes that I think like Adam Thielen was running, and have Bryce try to get him the ball really early and then in space, so that way we can because. I don't know if Coker's going to have a good game in this game, or XL, or we expect T Mac to get his numbers, but I don't think he's going to be having a crazy game. But we're definitely going to need one of those three to step up. But it's probably going to be more on the Jimmy Horn side, because Jamar Chase and George Pickens and Wilson with the Steelers, they have pretty good speed. So the Green Bay Packers, I feel like they'll do a good job. They'll do a good job handling T Mac and XL and Coker, and even Renfro and Bryce and Tremaine. But I think Jimmy Horn, that might be our wild card. That might be our our wild card we can use to get our offense sparking. And then another note I wanted to talk about is we need to go also talk about we need a healthier blend of Rico and Chuba. So I think we should start off with Chuba. I mean, not Chuba, Rico. We need to start off with Chuba, get the electricity going in our offense, and we need to establish like a more of a Jimmy Horn, Rico, and then also trying to hit T Mac, deep on some deep vertical routes. That's what we need to focus on, and then save Chuba for probably I think in the second quarter, or when Rico Dowdle needs like a breather. So we need to start leading off with Rico, and Dave Canales has already said that during this week that looking over the film and stuff that we're going to lead off with Rico. So we'll see. But to bring off to bring up that point about Rico, I also looked up at the Packers and other teams. They held almost a lot of their teams running backs under 100 yards. So most of the games they played, the opposing team going up against the Packers, didn't rush for over 100 yards. I think I'm looking at their now. To be fair to them, I think Jatavion Williams with the Cowboys had about like 88 yards, or maybe close to maybe even over a little 100. So they haven't really necessarily played a great running back. I don't think they played the Colts at all, or no, but. They do a good job. I mean, that is a good defensive team, and they're third in the NFL against the run. And for the Panthers, Rico Dowdle going off has been a huge spark for our offense. So this could be a blowout. Like, I mean, if you think about it, they do a good job of covering. They're going to do a good job covering our receivers. The only receiver that I think could pose a big threat to him is Jimmy Horn Jr. because of his speed. But XL, I mean, he's going to get his yard because he's a big target and he can jump high. But XL and Coker have to step up. If we have any thoughts of winning this game, they're going to have to step up, because if they don't, we're going to get blown out. Like, this game is. And it's kind of crazy because, Andy Dalton gets blown out against the Bills, and people ask for, Bryce back. And finally, Bryce, people start to give him his respects and start to say that, hey, Bryce is our team. They may be questioning, whether he's our franchise quarterback, but they're like, hey, this is Bryce's team. And then, he comes back and this game could be a blowout against the Packers with their pass rush ability to stop the run, and then as well as our other receivers don't really, I feel like, threaten their secondary. I don't think they will. I think the only one that poses the opportunity of doing that is maybe Jimmy Horn. I think Jimmy Horn, because of his speed and quickness and twitch, he presents more of a challenge for them. And now I want to talk about the Packers versus the Packers offense versus our defense. So this game is, we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot in this game. And, even if this is a blowout, this would still be a good way to see where we match up against a team that can potentially represent the NFC and the Super Bowl. And even if we get blown out, I still think we're going to, we still have a shot to make it to playoffs, maybe as the last wild card seed. It looks like Tampa's doing a pretty good job of, keeping the distance from us, but, hopefully Tampa can lose this week. But we must contain Jordan Love. We got to make sure that our ends like Nick Gordon, Ashawn Robinson, Derek Brown, and also Princely, Uman Mielen, that they are able to get pressure on Jordan Love, able to contain them. Our linebackers need to do a good job of stopping Tucker Kraft, their tight ends. He's really good. I think he has the most receiving touchdowns on the team. He has like a decent amount of yards this year, so he's really good. And we struggle against tight ends, so that's a problem right there. We need to do a better job of containing Jordan Love. Now, we did a pretty good job with Josh Allen, but other factors of the games got out of the hand, and it was like, what else could you do? At that point, Josh Allen didn't need to be Superman to beat us because we were already beating ourselves. But with Jordan Love, I just want to see that same kind of pressure where we were getting to him, getting sacks, because Jordan Love every now and then will probably throw you a ball. He sort of has that sort of Brett Favre craze where, he's in the pocket, he's moving around, and then all of a sudden he just throws a wild play. Like if you still remember the play against San Francisco in the playoffs where it was raining and he ran and he threw it across his body. And I believe San Francisco, it may have been like San Francisco or Detroit, but I think it was San Francisco. Yeah, they ran, got the interception, and it ended the game. So Jordan Love will throw some balls and we'll throw it up there for our CBs to hopefully, or even our safeties to even come up and pick. But we just got to do a better job of containing him. That's the main key thing. We got to contain him. We got to stop Tucker Kraft. That's a big one. Our linebackers, both Roseboom and Wallace, have to step up, and we need better coverage on these tight ends. And then this is probably the biggest matchup I'm going to, and I said this the same thing with Dallas, with George Pickens versus Michael Jackson. Matthew Golden and Mike Jackson is going to be something to watch out for, because this could make the game get ugly quick. If our defense doesn't hold on, to Jordan Love, or we get the sacks, or he's able to use his mobility to get out of there, Matthew Golden can easily be down the field like 50, 40 yards waiting for a bomber. Or, he gets like a PI call or so on Mike Jackson. Or, sometimes even Jace Horn can find himself in those situations. So the Matthew Golden, how we handle his speed, because we don't particularly do well against speedy receivers. You saw that with Jalen Waddle was able to get that big play. It was against Mike Jackson. You saw I want to say now the other one last week was, I think that was Nick Scott had a poor tackle on Khalil with Buffalo, who took it all the way. And then even George Pickens was just, he was demolishing Michael Jackson. So that's a concern for us. So we must contain Jordan Love. We have to do a better job of guarding guarding their tight end Tucker Kraft. Let me look up his stats real quick, because he's He's actually he's doing pretty good on their team. Yeah, Tucker Craft. Yeah, he's their leading receiver with 469 yards, and Tucker Craft has how many touchdowns? Yeah, he's leading. Yeah, he's leading the receiving groups with 6 touchdowns. So I mean, just right there. I mean, their defense is going to come after us. Our offensive line is sort of, you know, iffy, and then they do a good job of holding down their other teams' receivers. Other teams typically have their tight ends being the leading, but for us, our only opportunity to maybe have a receiver being our leading. Now, T Max is going to have a lot of balls thrown his way. I talked about that last week, where he gets a bulk of the targets, and I just feel like sometimes we need to space that out a little bit more. But he's going to get the bulk, so he might get a shot. But it's really Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn is going to be our best option, and then also Jatavion Sanders. I think he also gives us a little boost, and then we're going to be able to tell real early, depending on how well Rico Dowdle is able to run. If Rico's having a tough day, we're going to be in for a tough day. But yeah, that's my. Oh, and one last thing. The Packers running back, I believe it's Josh Jacobs. I think we should do a pretty good job of holding him. We've been doing a decent job against the run. Now, when we go up against more explosive, like crafty running backs, like last week with I think it's James Cook, and then also Archie was giving us some issues. We do tend to do a pretty good job of covering, stopping the running backs. I thought we did pretty good on Jatavion Williams and then Bijan Robinson. Although that's Atlanta and that's a divisional game, so we're more prepared for Bijan in that way. But we do a pretty good job of stopping the run. But I don't think Green Bay's running game should beat us. I don't think that's going to be what's beating us. I think it's going to be their defense, and it's going to be if we can protect our quarterback and if we can start getting more other receivers to step up besides T Mac, and also our tight ends. We're going to need our tight ends to get big plays, but we're also going to need XL and Coker to step up. But I do think that we're going to have to start utilizing Jimmy Horn Jr. more. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was trade. I think this game could play a good part. I think if we get blown out, maybe that might have us sort of reconsider about giving away draft picks, because I've heard Dan Morgan talking about he wants to build it the right way, and he doesn't want to give up a lot of draft capitals or whatnot. But I still do think that we should look to the Miami Dolphins and try to take some of those. Bradley Chubb is the name. I think we should at least try to maybe give up like a fourth or a fifth to try to see if we can probably get Bradley Chubb or even Jalen Phillips. But if the price is like second or third round, that's too rich for us. We got to keep our first, our second, our third. Right now, the way I see it, our first round pick should probably be a linebacker, and then after that, maybe in the second round, a corner, and then third round, hit up a offensive line for depth, and then also for competition as well. But we definitely need to look at Miami. I also know there's other teams like Tennessee that also had some linebackers or edge that we could possibly add to help the pass rush. But I think we need to add a linebacker specifically that's good at covering tight ends and also having us and in the right position in our defense, because the linebacker's like the quarterback of the defense. As far as us, selling our team, or it's interesting because Jonathan Brooks, he runs a lot like Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle's just probably a bigger, I guess you can say a taller version of Jonathan Brooks. Who's out with 2 ACL injuries. 1 year in Texas, and then what happened last year. So, if we trade Chuba, then it's like it puts us with ETN, Rico, and Brooks, and then you sort of have two of the same running backs. But then if you trade Rico Dowdle, then you're kind of hoping that Jonathan Brooks comes off of to ACL and he replaces Rico Dowdle, which that's a gamble right there. That truly is a gamble. It's going to be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if we're quiet, but I do seriously. I am definitely team Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins, sitting a fourth or a fifth to get those linebackers and just spice it up. Because I mean, even if we do get blown out by the Green Bay Packers, I mean, it teaches us that look, this year we're going to be like a wild card, hopefully getting into the playoffs, or we're going to miss the playoffs by like a game or two. So this is still a building year. This is sort of like a year to see where we're at as a team, and I do think we're one draft away. Which is why I said don't give up a second or a first. Now Myles Garrett. If they're not asking for 3 first-round picks and they're asking for 2, I might entertain that. I can't lie. I definitely would entertain Myles Garrett for 2 first, and then we would sort of have the. I think from that point, if we were to go to the next year's draft, the 26th draft with a second and a third, but I don't think it's going to work out that like that. They might do like a first, a second, and then we might just only have a third, a fourth, a fifth, or something like that. But I mean, if Myles Garrett is on, but then he has that big contract, so yeah, that's probably a bad idea. But yeah, I would say Myles Garrett is a serious talent, and that would be one player that if for whatever reason, but I doubt we do trade. But if we were to give it up all again, almost like we did with Bryce Young, hopefully we don't have to give up players. We don't have to give up Derek Brown or T-Mac to go get Myles Garrett. Hopefully that doesn't happen like what happened with Bryce Young and giving up DJ Moore. But that's and one last thing, a receiver. So as far as our receiver dynamics, I like it with T-Mac being a big body, can jump up, get vertical, and create separations, and he can just be like a nice catch radius for Bryce Young. We probably need to attack receiver again in the draft, but in the later rounds, and we need a speedster. We need a blow the top off, type of wide receiver. And I do think that that's out there in the fourth to fifth round. So I don't think we should trade for like Chris Olave or I think that's the only name as far as like receiver that I have seen, like Chris Olave, and I may have heard of any receivers, but I mean we definitely need a blow the top off the the secondary receiver, and I think we can still get that in the draft. So I think as far as we should think about either trading Chuba or Rico. I think we should keep them both, extend them. We already have Chuba extended, but extend Rico. And as far as receivers, us trying to trade for a receiver to get that speed demon, I don't think we need to do that now. I think we just need to focus on seeing what we got as receivers. I mean, the answer is obvious. We need a speed demon. We need somebody to blow the top off. But yeah, and that's pretty much everything. Yeah. This game can get ugly. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna lie. This game can get ugly, probably pretty quick. But I'm also interested to see how the Panthers respond. And I mean, I kind of wish that I want Bryce to be healthy because I think that like out of all the games to come back, he comes back against a team that has some pretty good DNs, and you got Micah Parsons, and it's just the way our offensive line is playing this year. It's like they have their moments where they're good, but then they have their moments when they're bad, and we could be looking at another game similar to the Buffalo Bills game. This game could possibly get bad pretty quickly, but you know, if it happens, we'll be able to bounce back. Let me look at the Panthers schedule real quick. After this game, we will be playing. So after we'll play the Saints and the Falcons, and then we'll be playing. Okay, good, another good double double. So we had the Bills and the Packers, which are two good teams. One's an AFC representative, possibly for the Super Bowl. The other one's an NFC representative, possibly on the Super Bowl. And there's this thing with Packers quarterback at the age of 27 winning the Super Bowl. Jordan Love is 27, and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers did the same at the age of 27, won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. But after the Saints and the Falcons, two like games that I can get us back into a groove. We play the 49ers. They're also a pretty good team, They could possibly, I don't have them as Super Bowl favorites, but they could possibly make a little splash in the playoffs. Might lose in the NFC Championship or losing in the divisional round. But then you also got the Rams. Now, I would love to see Bryce healthy playing up against the Rams because I also think that the Rams could ultimately represent the NFC and I don't think they can. Well, I have them in the NFC Championship game, possibly losing to Green Bay, but they're really a good team. They're really sound. They're really good. Great defense, really sound. We'll have two more games to test and see how we are. But I think even if we do get blown out by the Packers, this will be a good reflection time. And then we'll have another test similar to the Packers and the Bills in form of the 49ers and the Rams. These are also two good teams that can, represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So, I'm just hoping for a good game and hoping to see if we have a better process, a better flow. I don't really expect us to win, but if we do win, I'm always happy for it and I love it. And you guys take care. This was Panthers Forecast. Take care. Bye.